Hello, book lovers and English learners. Welcome to our November live read along. I'm Lydie Bureau. I'm an English teacher in France, and I'm also the founder of Lydie's Book Club, a book club for learners of English. In this book club, I host live readings and workshops on adaptations of classics of literature and contemporary novels in their original text. I also tend to prioritize books that are written by women. Each month, we read and explore a different book for all levels of English. Usually, it goes from A2 plus, so pre-intermediate level, up to C1 plus advanced learners of English or speakers of English. And 3 times a month, I meet the members of the book club in a live workshop session via Zoom to discuss the chapters read over the week. So that in this workshop, it's where the members of the book club have the floor in a way. It's their opportunity for them to practice their speaking skills and their critical thinking skills and reflect on the novel, reflect on in relation to our modern society, especially when it's a classic. So it's very interesting to put the book in parallel with our life, modern life. So this month we are reading the A2 plus adaptation of The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. And this is a 2022 Penguin Readers edition. And if you want to know more about the novel, the original text, which is this book, well, or this size of the book, it's not a long, very long novel. They're about 200 pages. Then I invite you to listen to the podcast episode 26, an introduction to Edith Wharton and the Age of Innocence, which is available on my YouTube channel, Edith's Book Club, and on the Spotify podcast, Read in English. So today it is our second live reading session of the Age of Innocence, and we're going to read chapters 3 and 4. And on Saturday, the 23rd of November, I will host the first live workshop session in which we will cover chapters 1 to 4. So the chapters that we have read this week. So if you want to attend this live session, this live workshop, then you just need to become a member of the book club, and you can stop at any time. So you just need to follow the link in the description and follow, and you will find on the page on the subscribing page, you will find all the information of the upcoming dates of the live readings and workshops. Last thing, but not least, I am pleased to announce that now the live workshop series, so the 4-part live workshop of North and South, is now available on the website on Lydie's Book Club. So this book was our October live read along, this novel from Elizabeth Gaskell. So you don't need to become a member to purchase the workshop sessions. You can just buy the workshop on its own, the 4-part live workshop on its own. And once you have purchased the book, the live session, you will have to create your login, and they will ask you to the website will ask you to create your login, and you will receive emails about how you have to create your login and everything. And this way you have a private access to the videos and watch at your own pace, on your own time, really. So again, the link of all the live workshops is in the description of this video. You just click on the link and you will find easily on the workshop page, on the workshop store page, all the workshops that we've done so far. So the latest is North and South, but if you're interested in another book, then you can pick the live workshop that you want to listen to. And that's it. In this way, it will give you quite a good idea of what it's like to be part of Leaders Book Club, especially if you're not sure about your level in English, if you think that you need to be completely fluent. No, you don't. So please do not think that you need to speak perfectly English to be part of the book club. But you need to be able to make sentences and understand this video, for example. So usually people have an intermediate level. So if you have a A2 plus, even A2 plus B1 level in English, then that's fine. You're fine. And I'll be happy to welcome you in the book club. Right. So as usual, I do a quick before I start reading the chapters. I do a quick recap of the previous chapters that we've read this week. So that was Wednesday. We read chapter 1 and 2, and we met our main characters. So we met Newland Archer, who is engaged, just newly engaged, if you want to play with words. So he's newly engaged with, or recently engaged with May Welland. Both of them belong to the high society of New York. And we meet the characters at the opera. So the first scene is at the opera, and Newland is in his box with all the men, of course, and the women are opposite. And in the box of the women, so the box is, so you have in this edition, you have some illustrations. The box of in a theater place is this. So you see it's usually on up on the first or second floor. So the richest, the people, the most important people, or the wealthiest people in society sit there. And so opposite his box, there is his fiance's box, May Welland, with her mother and a new and an aunt as well, and a new character, well, a new member of the family, which is Olenska, the Countess Olenska, who is actually the cousin, May's cousin. And this comes a little bit as a shock. So the men are quite surprised about the presence of Countess Olenska. This woman mainly lived in Europe all her life, and she got married quite young to a count, a Polish count, so Count Olenski. And she lived all around Europe and France, including France, with him. And she left him. We learn that she has left him. I can't remember if they say this information in the adaptation, but I'm gonna say it to you because this is the story. Um, uh, and in the adaptation, sometimes they omit some information. So I can't remember because as I read the original text beforehand, I sometimes forget that the information is not necessarily in the adaptation, so that can be a little bit confusing. But yes, yeah, we've got the information. Yeah. So in chapter 2, we learn that Countess Olenska has left her husband because he cheated on her. And she escaped thanks to his secretary, so the count's secretary, and she managed to go back to New York to go back to her family and seek support because she had in mind what because her plan is to divorce her husband. But as you can imagine, the story is set in the late 19th century, more specifically in the 1870s. And divorce is not something that it's really accepted, especially if the woman is asking for divorce. Why should she ask divorce? Why should she be unhappy? She's married to a rich man. She travels. She buys all that she wants. Why? What is wrong with her in a way? And this is really this has a very negative effect on this would have a very negative effect on the family, the Mingott family, because Ellen Olenska comes from the Mingott family. And there is an important character, Mrs. Mingott, who is the grandmother of May and Ellen Olenska. And this lovely, well, can we say lovely? But to me, she's quite, she welcomes back her niece or her granddaughter in a very warm way. She's very charitable in a way, knowing that it would raise questions amongst the family members and amongst the society, New York society, because people gossip. And the men in the box are actually gossiping about Ellen Olenska in the way in when they say, "Oh, what's the phrase? They they didn't dare, they dared, or whatever." It's this idea of in a way that they dared, they did it, they actually allowed her to go to the opera. Where was it? Where, yeah, they act. What was the phrase? Um, Look at that. After everything that's happened, no, after everything that's happened, this is how they adapted it. Um, what are the they eventually this yeah, look at that after everything that's happened. No, sorry, I can't find um in the ori oh, sorry, I thought that I would find the phrase easily, but actually I think it's that one. After all, they actually did it. So I can't remember in the original text. Uh, it is Edith Wharton writes in a very she writes with a lot of humor in her text, and with a lot of irony and sarcasm, very subtle sarcasm, but it makes you smile. I have many smiley faces on my in the text, in the annotation that I did in the text. Um, and I think that they say, what's the phrase? She doesn't even guess what it's all about. Oh, never mind. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this. I thought that I could find the phrase. Um, Never mind. Well, I will when I will highlight it. Anyway, I can't remember where the phrase is. Never mind. Okay, so uh they are quite shocked that they dared bring Ellen Olenska at the opera because obviously her presence would not look good on the family because of the scandal of Mr. The Count Olensky cheating on his wife. First of all, this is quite a scandal in itself, and also the fact that now his wife, the Countess Ellen, wants the divorce. So that's and about Newland Archer and his engagement to May. We learned that they had planned to announce it a little bit later, but because of the arrival of Elena Linska, he decides that it would be better to announce it today, well, on the evening of the opera in the ball hosted by another wealthy family of the high society of New York, the Beauforts. So Newland Archer would take this opportunity to announce his engagement to May so that people will shine a light more on their announcement than be talking about Ellen Olenska and the whole scandal and that is happening in the family. Right. So let's read chapter 3 now. Um, and also we learn, another information, important information also is that Newland Archer and Ellen Olenska knew each other. So they met when they were young, when they were kids. And when they meet again, they kind of recall their childhood. And you feel that Newland Archer is quite disturbed or distracted by Ellen's presence. He's a little bit unsettled, and Mr. and Mrs. Ludens, Van der Ludens, another ancient family of the high society of New York, organized this dinner to celebrate, in a way, to welcome Countess Olenska and in back to New York. And at this dinner party, Ellen is going to act in a way that is very inappropriate for a woman to do. She's going to start talking with what's his name? They have another guest, the Duke of St. Austray, and she's going to be talking with him. So the Duke is going to go forward to her and speak with her. But at some point, I guess Countess Olenska is going to be bored of their conversation, and she will all of a sudden stand up and walk towards Newland, which is not appropriate for a woman of this social class to do. You should not stand up and leave while a man is talking to you. The custom would be to just stay seated and wait that he leaves, and not go on your own to another go to talk to another man all by yourself. You should wait that the man come to you. So in many ways, the way she's dressing herself and the way she acts are very foreign manners. She doesn't behave properly. And that's also something that bothers the family or the people. It bothers, in a way, all the other people in the society, or the guests invited in this social gathering. Right. So now that I have all the main information given out to you, so it's a good way for you to refresh your mind of what happened, and also to me it's a good way to refresh my memory about the story. Right, so now let's continue. Chapter 3, a visit to the Countess. So during this evening, Countess Olenska invited also. She put herself forward in a way in inviting Newland to her place. She lives. Where does she live? She lives with her grandmother, I think. Yes, at Mrs. Mingott's house, very grand house. And she invited Newland to just have a chat and She just casually invited him to visit her. So this is what he did. Countess Olenska was not living at old Mrs. Mingott's now. Okay, so now she moved the place. She moved out. And at 5:30 p.m. the next day, Archer rang at the door of her strange little house. It was an unusual area to choose to live, an unusual area to choose to live, a long way down West 23rd Street. The house had an old painted front and plants stretching across the walls. May did not know that Archer was there. He wanted to tell her earlier, but the day was filled with more visits to friends and family. Sometimes he felt that he was shown to them like a wild animal. In the end, he and May were never alone together all day. But I know that she wants me to be kind to her cousin, he told himself as he waited. The door was opened by a dark-haired girl who spoke to him in Italian. The only thing that Archer understood was that the Countess was out. The girl took him to the sitting room where a fire was burning and left him. Archer was surprised, but felt more interested than cross. He sat down by the fire to wait and looked around. Inside, the tired old house seemed warm and foreign. There were flowers everywhere, but as he waited, he began to feel embarrassed at being there, alone. At last, he heard a carriage outside and got up to look out the window. By the light of the street lamp, he could see Julius Beaufort helping Countess Olenska out of his carriage. A few moments later, she came in alone. She did not seem at all surprised to find him in her sitting room. "How do you like my funny little house?" she asked. "To me, it's like heaven. You've made it pretty. To me, it's like heaven. You've made it very pretty," he answered, disappointed at how boring this sounded. What I really like is being here in my own country and my own home, my own town, and then being alone in it, she continued quietly. "You like being alone?" "Yes, if I have friends close by." She sat down by the fire. "But I can't stay here. It's not a good area, my friends say. I don't see why that matters. But I want to do what you all do. I want to feel safe. And it doesn't feel safe here. Being here is like being taken on holiday when you've been a good little girl." Archer did not like to hear her laughing about New York like this. Didn't she understand what a powerful machine it was and how it could break her? So just a pause here. The Countess doesn't seem to understand the rules of the Society of New York. And she's kind of laughing about it, all these set of rules, and also in terms of the location where you live is very important for New York society, and to her it's in a way quite absurd, and she is in a way taking these social rules and customs in a very light. Yeah, she takes it very lightly in a way. And here Newland is seeing that through her attitude and the way she's laughing about the fact that her friend said that it's not a nice area. Um, and he sensed that she doesn't realize that if she doesn't abide by the rules of society, New York society, she will be rejected. So let's see. Last night, New York was on your side, he answered. The Van der Luden are the most powerful people in New York society. Sadly, Mrs. Van der Luden is often ill and cannot have many visitors. Maybe that's why they're so powerful, she replied. They make themselves unusual by hiding themselves away and make themselves rare. Being rare means also being expensive, being powerful in a way. Archer, but obviously they don't say that. They say, oh, my wife is sick. So that's why. So they find a false excuse, and that impacts on how they're perceived by the society and the respect they get from this. Archer looked at her. How could she speak about the Van der Luden like this? So here, Newland is quite naive of his own world, about his own world, although in the original text, or we can see it here a little bit, he's detached a little bit. He has an observer point of view, more like, but sometimes he falls back into the absurdity of the society, and also he doesn't see it in another way. Then he started laughing at the truth of what she said, and the Van der Luden were brought down from heaven to earth. But you must explain these things to me, she continued. I need you to guide me. No, you are opening my eyes. I've stopped seeing some things because I've looked at them for so long. So in a way, she's opening his eyes, as he's saying here, as I mentioned before. Then I can help you too, but I need help much more than you. Your aunts and grandmother can guide you. They don't approve of me moving here, but I had to be free. There are only two people in New York who seem to understand me, you and Mr. Beaufort. Archer did not like to hear her talk of Beaufort and himself together. One day he could explain to her what Beaufort was really like. I understand, he said kindly, but your aunts and your grandmother want to help you. They like and admire you. She shook her head. I know, but only if they don't hear anything unpleasant. Oh, does no one want to know the truth here? She suddenly hid her face in her hands and began to cry. Countess Olenska. Oh, Ellen, don't cry, he said, hurrying to her side and taking one of her hands. Does no one cry here either? She said, looking up at him. At that moment, the dark-haired girl came into the room and announced something in Italian. Then the Duke of St. Austria entered, and the Countess got up to meet him. Hmm. Archer was relieved to be able to leave. As he went out into the cold night, New York became large and powerful once more, and May the loveliest woman in it. He usually sent her white flowers every morning, but he was late today. So he went straight to a flower shop. As he waited in the shop, he noticed some wonderful yellow roses. Should he send some should he send those for a change? But no, they were too rich and too strong for May's quiet beauty. Then suddenly he was buying the yellow roses and May's white flowers. But who is going to send the flowers to? The yellow ones, the yellow roses. He asked for the roses to be sent to Countess Olenska's address, but with no card to say who they were from. So it doesn't seem to be seemed to wanting he seemed to well it doesn't seem to kind of own what he's doing. Hide himself behind the flowers. The next afternoon, Archer and May at last found time to escape together for a walk in Central Park. Archer thought that May looked more beautiful and innocent than ever as she walked at his side. But when I begin to show her the real world, what will she see? He thought. It's so wonderful to wake to the smell of flowers in my room every day, said May happily. Thank you. I'm sorry that they were late yesterday, he replied. I also saw some I also saw some nice yellow roses, which I also saw some nice yellow roses, which I sent to Countess Olenska. Was that right? So it's quite honest towards May by revealing to her that he sent the flowers to his cousin. How dear of you, answered May. It's strange that she didn't tell me when she came for lunch. She spoke only of the wonderful flowers that Mr. Beaufort sent. Well, I'm sure that Beaufort's flowers were very superior, said Archer crossly. So, well, in a way, that's his fault. He didn't write his name on the card. He didn't send the flowers with a card and sign the card. And so she assumed probably that it was from Mr. Beaufort. The flowers, sorry, the flowers were from Mr. Beaufort. Or is it a technique or a tactic, whatever you want to call it, from May to upset Newland? Because as you can imagine, I mean, they're about to get married, and but the marriage is supposed to be only in 1 year. But Newland would like to move the date forward. So he's a little bit in a hurry, and that's kind of suspicious from May's point of view and her parents. And now he's saying that he's sent flowers to this cousin that he barely remembers, that he just met a couple days ago. So I guess if you in May's shoes, you could think that she pretended that she was happy that that it didn't affect her that he sent his cousin's flowers. But I mean, if I were her, I would feel a little bit suspicious. Would you send flowers to my cousin? roses, especially roses, yellow roses, which has well, even I think yellow means friendship. Um, Yellow roses means friendship. I would think that it's quite forward for him to send the flowers. I don't know. So here we could argue that May might not so innocent that we would think, that Newland would think. Right. I'll let you think about this this thought and leave me a comment in below the video to tell me what you think about May's character. Let's continue. Then he remembered not putting a card with the roses and was sorry for speaking about them. Yeah, so he should have probably turned twice his tongue in his mouth than speaking. And there is a lovely illustration of May and Newland walking in Central Park here. Should he tell May about his visit to her cousin yesterday? Not telling her seemed to make it a secret, which he did not like. To get away from this problem, he began to talk about a date for their wedding. But everyone has a long engagement, said May. And aren't we fine as we are? Archer was expecting her to say this. It was what her family said. But she was nearly 22. He wanted her, to speak for herself. It will be much better when we are married. We could be together and we could travel. He answered, Newland, you're so different, May said, laughing. Different? We're all just the same, like dolls cut out of paper. Can't we do things our own way? He cried. Heavens, do you want to run away and be married secretly? Why not? We can't behave like people in stories, can we? May was beginning to look a little impatient. I'm not clever enough to explain, but wouldn't it be vulgar? Archer said no more. That evening, he found his mother and Jenny talking about Countess Olenska. So here she's even saying vulgar, so that's not proper. This is not a good way to act, like going off and getting married, to fugitives in a way. Yesterday, she allowed the Duke of St. Austria to take her to the party of the vulgar woman, Mrs. Struthers. Mrs. Archer told him. Mrs. Archer told him. Can't you explain to the Countess that society here is different? At that moment, Mr. van der Luden was announced. I've just been to visit Countess Olenska to give her some friendly advice, he said. It isn't a good idea to allow the Duke to take her to parties. At our dinner, the Countess asked us to guide her in these things, so I decided to speak to her. How kind, cried Mrs. Archer. Newland will be very relieved because he is soon to become one of their family. So she's saying that because, of course, if she doesn't behave, if Countess Olenska doesn't behave properly, it will reflect bad on him. He's a lawyer, he's working in a firm, and this also would not look good on him at work. So it's on the private, but also on the professional sphere. Archer saw the look that his mother gave him and thanked Mr. van der Luden warmly. When their visitor was gone, Mrs. Archer shook her head and breathed out slowly. "Let's hope that everything ends well," she said. And that's the end of chapter 3, sorry. We see that they're quite concerned. So everyone, in a way, is concerned about Elena Olenska. Chapter 4, a public divorce. 2 weeks later, Archer was sitting in his office at Letterblair and Lowe, lawyers, when Mr. Letterblair sent for him. "My dear sir," began the old man, looking a little worried, "I need to speak to you privately about—" He stopped and pushed his fingers through his white hair. So he did like that in a way. "About family. I met with Mrs. Mingott yesterday," so the grandmother. "Her granddaughter, Countess Olenska, wants to divorce her husband. I'd like you to look at these papers." Archer felt his face turn red. So you see how it affects the professional sphere. "Her family is against the idea, of course, and they have told the Countess," Mr. Letterblair was saying. "But she still wants to speak to a lawyer. Mrs. Mingott and Mr. Lovell Mingott have both asked for you." He held out some papers. "Does she want to marry again?" asked Archer. "That's what people are saying, but Countess Olenska says no," replied Mr. Letterblair. "But please read these papers before we speak any more about it." Archer took the papers back to his office and sat down to read them. There were letters from Count Olenski's lawyers about money, and a short, horrible letter from the Count to his wife. After reading it, Archer knew that he had to stop others learning about something so private. He sent the Countess a message asking to visit her later, and went back to Mr. Letterblair's office. "She'll never get back any more of her money than her husband has already given her," said the old man. "A divorce, which everyone will hear about, is a terrible idea." Archer suddenly felt differently. "I think that it's for the Countess to decide," he said. "But when people hear the Count's story about her, there'll be very unpleasant talk." "Unpleasant?" cried Archer too loudly. Mr. Letterblair looked at him in surprise. Neither of them spoke for a moment. "You agree with me?" he said finally. "Of course," replied Archer. So here, again, it's a lot of information are not said, so you have to interpret the meaning in the look, because everything is happening through the eyes. Similarly to May and Newland's communication, a lot go through the eyes and the look and the posture as well. So here, what Mr. Letterblair is saying is that there will be unpleasant talk about you, in a way, the fact that you're related to this family, that you will soon be related to this family. So it's not going to look good on you if she divorces this man. So this is what it means, but it doesn't say it, of course, because it's not proper to say it. Um, so Archer, in a way, is stuck in this position because, in a way, he finds that it's very unfair towards the Countess, but on the other hand, he needs to think about himself, and he will because I mean, you will. He's a man, and he doesn't care. Well, he doesn't care, but he cares more about what people will think about him than the well-being of this cousin-in-law, future cousin-in-law. Um, and you'll talk to the Countess about giving up the ID? I can't promise that until I've spoken to her. Mr. Archer, Mr. Archer, this divorce will hurt the whole family, a family that you're marrying into. Mr. Letterblair was becoming impatient. Archer suddenly did not want Mr. Letterblair to give the work to anyone else. It was too private. He should be more careful. I only meant, sir, that I'd like to be able to tell you what the Countess says. I'll speak to her immediately. And also what the hi Audrey, welcome to this live. Thank you for joining. I hope you're well. Um, so what I did not mention, what the adaptation doesn't mention here is that Newland, at first, when Mr. Letterblair offered him this job, is he doesn't want to look after the case. He doesn't want to take care of it. And but Letterblair does it, insists and does it on purpose in a way because he knows that asking him to dissuade or to make Countess Olenska change her mind, coming from him will have the right effect. It will have a positive, or she will listen to him because they saw that he has some of this kind of an influence on her. So they know that asking him and not anyone else to make her change her mind will work in a way. As before, the Italian girl Nastasia opened the door and took Archer to the sitting room. He was angry to find Beaufort there, standing by. Again, Beaufort is there. It's always there, standing by the fire, looking down on the Countess. She sat on the sofa in front of a wall of flowers, and you have a lovely illustration here. You can see all the flowers on this table, all the pretendants of all the admirers of Countess Olenska. She sat on the sofa in front of the wall of flowers. She was wearing a long, dark red dress that showed the pale skin of her arms. If you go to Skittercliff with the Vanderleidens, you will miss my party on Sunday, Beaufort was saying. And there'll be music. You must come. It sounds lovely, but allow me to think about it. I have to talk business with Mr. Archer now, she replied. Beaufort looked impatiently at Archer. Then he kissed the countess's hand. He kissed the countess's hand and left. As soon as he was gone, the countess's face became sad. Oh, how I want to be free of the past, she cried. I understand, said Archer. Until I received your message, I didn't know that you worked with Mr. Letter Blair, she said. But you can help me. Now that you've read the papers, you know about my life with my husband. Yes, but if the terrible things that he says about you become public, you could be hurt. Well, in a way that we could be hurt. They care more about themselves than the countess, actually. Well, she could be hurt as well, but yeah, they seek their own interest in the family. That's it. But how can my husband hurt me here in New York? Archer had to tell her the truth, that her husband's stories could hurt her here more than anywhere. New York society isn't like Europe, he said. It's a very small world with strong ideas about marriage and divorce. She sat looking down at her pale hands and said nothing. That's what my family has taught me, she said at last. Our family, I mean, for you be my cousin soon. Do you agree with them? Well, said Archer, public talk of the divorce will be very painful when there are these terrible stories about you and what we will get for it. He wanted her to say that her husband's stories were lies. I'll be free, she answered. Archer felt disappointed. The stories in her husband's letter might be true. Maybe she did hope to marry the secretary who helped her to run away. But aren't you free already? I have to help you to see these things as your family do. They love you and want the best for you, he continued. She got up, stood by the dying fire without answering. Their meeting was over, Archer thought. Then suddenly she said, All right, I do what you want. This was so unexpected that Archer felt lost for a moment. Without thinking, he took both her hands in his. I do want to help you, he said. You do help me. Good night, my cousin, she replied. He took her pale hand and kissed it before turning to the door. Over the following days, Archer kept thinking of their meeting. The Countess was a very quiet young woman, but her life excited him. He felt sure that Countess Olenska's stories about his wife and his secretary was not a lie, and he understood how it happened. She was young and frightened of her terrible husband, so she was thankful to the man who saved her. But in the eyes of the New York society, this made her no better than her husband, and Archer had to tell her that. At the same time, he felt strangely jealous. So here we see that Archer is developing feelings for Countess Olenska. Then Archer received a letter from May, who was in Florida with her parents. Be kind to Ellen while we are away for the winter, she said. She likes and admires you very much. She's still unhappy, but the family don't understand that. She doesn't feel at home in New York after living in Europe. She's interested in music, art, and books like you, and misses them. You're almost the only person who can talk to her about these feelings. So you see how May actually pushes him um, towards Ellen. So it's quite surprising to see that she encourages him to spend time with her. How Archer loved May for that letter. He felt sure that Ellen Olenska could look after herself better than the innocent May believed. She had men like Beaufort around her. But when he saw the Countess again at the theatre with the Beauforts, he knew that May was right. Ellen was unhappy. I've done what you wanted. I've taken your advice, she said quietly. That's good, replied Archer, embarrassed that she was speaking about this now. You were right, and I'm thankful to you, she continued. But sometimes life is difficult. On his way to the office the next morning, Archer looked everywhere for yellow roses, but could find none. That afternoon, he sent the Countess a message asking to visit her later that day, but she did not reply. 3 days later, he received a letter from her at last, from Skittercliff, the Vanderludens country house. I ran away the day after I saw you at the theatre. I ran away the day after I saw you at the theatre, she wrote. I feel safe here. I'd like it even better if you were with us. Archer was very surprised by her letter. What was she running away from? He was disappointed, too, that she was not in New York. But I have friends near Skittercliff, he thought. But I have friends near Skittercliff, he thought. They'll be happy to have me visit the. They'll be happy to have me visit for the weekend. So oh well, that's the end of chapter 4. So you see, he's ready to run away. Well, not run, but take the first train to go and visit Ellen when he doesn't seem to be as excited to visit May, perhaps in Florida with her parents. Yeah, so here the story is taking quite a turn here. And the relationship between Newland and May and Ellen is taking a new direction in a way. They getting closer and closer, and May let him believe, I would say, that she is okay with that she's actually asking him, she wants him to spend time with her, to look after her. So, is it a way to manipulate him by actually allowing him to spend time with her and care for her, to actually make him understand that that actually she knows what he's doing, and be careful of be careful, because I know things in a way. I know that you're close to her. So, yeah, what do you think? Let me know, what do you think about May's reaction to Newland's behavior towards Ellen? And do you think she's manipulative, or do you think that she's very naive and actually she is being just a kind cousin. Although she says that the divorce, the request from Ellen to divorce, uh, is not well viewed by the family, is not accepted. So she should stop the process of she should stop the inquiry of the divorce. Not the inquiry, but the process of the divorce. And yeah, so well, from Newland's point of view, it doesn't seem like um, to him, he doesn't suspect anything. For him, is the um, innocent May that just is just being naive. She doesn't see anything. She's shy. She's a kind girl, and uh, she is not silly, but she's not clever enough to understand what's going on. I don't know. Let me know what you think about this interpretation of the characters. Do you think they were the same way, or what do you think actually about those characters? I'd love to know. Right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this live reading. Make sure you subscribe to the book club to attend our first live workshop on the Saturday, 23rd of November, next Saturday. And I wish you a beautiful rest of the day, beautiful evening, because today I'm recording this in the evening. So anyway, have a beautiful rest of the day, and I will see you next Wednesday on the 20th of November for our third live reading session. We will read chapters 5 and 6. Bye.